Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining our live session today. My name is Larissa. I'm an event planner at Reactor, joining you from Brazil. Before we start, I have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. This session is being recorded and will be available to view on demand here on the Reactor YouTube channel within 48 hours. Keep an eye on the chat. You'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions so our presenter can answer. I will now turn it over to our speaker for today. Thank you all and welcome, Lady Thomas.
Hi there. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. And thank you for making time to attend this session on evaluation driven development. My name is Ligi Thomas. I am based out of Midwest US, so this is my early morning for me. Um, I hope a lot of you are doing well and interested in the AI space and following what is happening over there. This session is intended for those who have been developing AI products or has a little background or interest in at least pursuing the development of AI production applications. So with that, we can get started. As I said, I'm a Microsoft MVP in AI, been working in the AI space for over a decade now before AI was a thing. So this is a very, very exciting space. And I hope you are able to take away insights on how to move from demos and prototypes and POCs to production applications as it pertains to AI and particularly GenAI or LLM-driven applications. Uh, so a little bit of an introduction to the topic itself, before we delve deeper into it. So, uh, I'll take a few steps back and kind of refresh for a lot of us. Many of us may be familiar with this space post the ChatGPT era. So come, the 2021, 2022, when ChatGPT launched, there was a whole new interest in the LLM space or the generative AI space, and people were very curious about what this technology could solve for. And understandably, there was a lot of interest, and engineers and developers started tinkering with the technology. And about for the first 1 year or so, there was a lot of POCs and prototypes. And you look at any industry, any organization, any engineer, like they just want to get their hands on the technology and want to see what this is capable of. Lot of use cases, lot of demos that were being produced to just prove the promise of the technology, which is great. I think there is no longer a doubt in terms of what the transformer architecture can actually do. But thereafter, in the last 1+ year or so, there has been a considerable shift from just proving out the value of the technology to how do we get this from POCs and just prototypes and just demos into production applications. Now, that is a different game altogether. Why? Because something that worked once now has to work every single time for every single user. And that is a different game plan altogether. So, building for production applications is no small feat. Like you've shipped regular enterprise grade production applications, and LLM driven or AI driven applications have to be built with the same level of rigor and regimen. Now, what's interesting about LLM or AI driven production applications, as you may have imagined, is that these models at the base are probabilistic. They are not deterministic, which means its creativity is a design feature. It comes up with its own ways to generate a response. Let's let's take the example of an AI assistant or a chatbot. How do you put this in production if you can't trust it, right? So that trust is the base or the foundation of how you put these applications into production. Now, from there, let's dive into that a bit. How do you build that trust? You can build the trust in your users if you have that confidence. How you build that confidence is if you can measure and evaluate the results of these applications in a consistent and in a structured manner, not spot checking here and there, just like how you do in demos. That will not work. When we do production level applications, we need to have a structured methodology using which we can deliberately run the tests, the same tests again and again, and we curate those results. We evaluate them, because only what we measure can we improve. And then we will have internal thresholds and confidence thresholds and say that, okay, it meets my benchmarks. This qualifies for production. And even once it has reached production, we can continue to do the same tests to understand, to evaluate this at scale, to see if it continues to meet those benchmark standards or if there has been a drift in any of the quality metrics. So, coming back to say that evaluation is at the base or at the core of some of the production level testing that we do. It is a foundation and a crucial pillar for you to be able to consider if you wish to move applications from POC or prototypes to production. And you would have heard this industry research cites that well over 80% of AI applications are in what they call a POC purgatory. They don't qualify to move into productions because it's easy to show what is possible with AI. It requires a lot of discipline, software engineering discipline and testing and rigor to actually put this into production and continue to evaluate after that. So hopefully that sets a base as to why this session and why we are doing what we're doing, and why we are evaluating, right? So and if you're from a software engineering background, this is not anything new. As developers, we rely on tests to validate our code before it ships. Like, we've always done this. So even when we build intelligent applications, it incorporates generative AI, LLM based outputs. We just need to ensure that we have the same way to measure that AI is behaving as it was expected to. So, if you consider the unit tests that you've been writing for AI, it will all follow the same patterns and practices. The good news is a lot of this is out of the box. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's where in this session, I will deep dive into some of the .NET libraries that are available, particularly Microsoft.Extensions.AI libraries. These will provide you the building blocks you need to orchestrate these evals. And you can make this a part of your .NET applications. There is nothing else you need to do towards that. So it's a very seamless integration with your workflows. Just like you would add packages or libraries to your .NET projects, you would just add this, and then you would go from it. So with that, let me move right ahead. As I said, please feel free to drop your questions and your comments in the chat, and then I will make time at the end to address the same. So let's move ahead. So I wanted to, so one side we talked about production applications as well. I also wanted to cover another dimension to this in terms of building responsible or trustworthy AI applications. And responsible AI is a fairly loaded term. It's used very commonly in our industry right now. But what does it actually mean? Responsible AI refers to the practice of designing, developing, and deploying AI applications in an ethical, transparent, and aligned manner. Now, what does that mean, right? So it means that when you build production level applications, especially that will be used mass by masses, by you and me, your families, my families, our communities, it is ethical of us to ensure that these principles are followed. These are Microsoft's responsible AI principles. Most giants in the ecosystem have their own list of AI principles that are not very different from each other. So Microsoft's principles, which haven't changed in a number of years, your application should be fair, should be inclusive, reliable and safe, transparent, privacy and security, accountability. Great. Now, how do we achieve this? So this is where you have, or Microsoft provides a very clear framework on how to go about doing this. And that falls under three major steps. One, you have to map. Second, as we discussed, we have to measure, because what we cannot measure, we cannot manage. So we map, measure, and manage. So let's talk about the first one, mapping. And you might be familiar with some of this. Map is the stage at which you identify what considerations need to be made for your application. Why? Every application is unique. What is needed for your application may not be the quality standards or the safety standards required for someone else's application. So you can do, for example, an impact assessment. It's a free template out there, years of research put into it. You can use AI impact assessment template to evaluate the impact of your particular use case. And there are so many other tools and techniques here, as you see, pirate or AI red teaming and inclusive design. Feel free to explore this. Where we will be focusing on is necessarily the measure stage. And I say in the measure, there again, there are so many tools and techniques that are available. But that red block there that I wanted to highlight, evaluating Gen AI applications. Now you will see how it is critical, not just for production applications, but for you to be even able to build and deploy a responsible or trustworthy Gen AI application. You must be able to measure that application. So we will dive deep or double click into this area. And just to complete that conversation, it is possible to, even when you deploy this into production, you have a number of techniques to be able to manage this and take it forward. So before I dive into the code itself and show you some demos, I wanted to go over the life cycle of a GenAI applications. And this is also from Microsoft, just taking the visual from there. So if you're not familiar, when you start putting POCs or prototypes into production, there is, like you say, an SDLC cycle, there is an or an ML ops cycle, there is now a Gen AI ops or an LLM ops life cycle. Let's look at the three stages there, and you will see in each of these stages, you will have an opportunity to measure or to evaluate something or the other. So we'll start with the first one. Now, most teams or most developers get this part right. It is about selecting your base model. When you have an application and you want to select a model for an application, or there's some other model that was released this week or last month, there is so much curiosity and so much work that goes into selecting that model. It could be based on LLM dashboards or other benchmarks that you may have internally. But you look at the quality of the base model, the accuracy, the performance, ethical considerations, the safety profiles and things like that. So you evaluate and compare a number of models and you select that model. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time in this area, which is great, but we do not stop there. So as you build your AI application, your model is one part of your AI application. That's it. So imagine your model is at the centerpiece. It is a very critical component, not to discount so, but the entire scaffolding around that makes it a production application is still required. That is equally important, and security is a first class citizen there. Reliability, safety, consistency, and all of those first class citizens, like you would build any application, right? So building an AI application, whether it's a greenfield or brownfield application, you will still require, in addition to the model, you will still require an ability to evaluate the quality, performance, and safety. And we have not yet shipped. This is even before shipping. So this is what it's called pre-prod evaluation or pre-production evaluation. And this goes for any kind of AI application. So let's say you're building an assistant. That could be, typically a RAG-based application. RAG is retrieval augmented generation application, where you have some content sources, you have some data in your repository, in your organization, and you want your assistant or your bot to only refer to those sources and not its foundational knowledge. So you can build RAG based applications, you can build agentic applications. Any generative AI applications should have a pre-prod phase. Now, the question is, how do we evaluate quality, performance, and safety? What are those metrics? What is the techniques? What tools? Things like that. So we'll come there. The last stage here is, let's say you did your pre-prod evaluation, you like what you're seeing, you are confident with it, you want to put it into production. Great. Even when it has reached production, you still have an operational phase where you are continuously evaluating your deployed product. And so this is an online evaluation, and this is probably at scale. What I mean by that is, in the pre-prod phase, when you have not yet shipped, you may want to test with a very small data set, a golden data set of questions and responses. But now in production, you may want to test at scale, or maybe even sample the number of production responses that you're getting on a daily basis and continue that evaluation process. So these are the three stages in which you have different kinds of evaluation happening. So that's a good segue into what are evaluators. If you recollect, the second and the third stage, particularly the second stage, we talked about needing pre-prod evaluation. And we said we want to evaluate for quality and performance and accuracy and things like that. So evaluators are a new class of tools that are designed to do just that. It will help you evaluate your performance of the AI system, particularly quality, safety, and reliability in a measurable way. So um, I will walk you through the different kinds of evaluators there are. It is fairly comprehensive, but I wanted to give you sort of a background to where this is also coming from, so that you appreciate it. So, developed in collaboration with Microsoft and GitHub researchers, and this has actually been tested on GitHub Copilot experiences. You have a number of what I call quality evaluators, safety evaluators, and NLP evaluators. And we will walk through each of this. You will see that though not covered fully in this session, there is also interactive reporting that is available out of the box. I will leave all resources in the chat at the end of this session so that you can drill down further into it. So these evaluation libraries are used to even generate detailed HTML reports. But I think to start with, what we should talk about is the libraries itself. So this is powered by Microsoft.Extensions.AI.Evaluation libraries. If you're familiar with Microsoft Extensions AI library, which helps you set up your LLM and all of that, this is built on top of that. So which means it's just as easy as just layering it. So it should be easily pluggable into your application. So that's where the evals come from. Think of evals on how you might plug this is maybe the way you would plug in unit tests. So they measure the model output against certain criteria that you see here on screen. It could be relevance, it could be, if it's an agent, it could be user intent. Now, my favorite part about this is, if there are so many evaluators coming out of the box, but if you wanted to create something of your own, you could extend those abstractions to create your own evaluator. So that's how powerful this is. So this will give you a methodical process to continuously test for or evaluate your structures. So a couple of these, as you can see here on screen, some of this I will walk you through. Retrieval. So we talked about RAG, retrieval augmented generation. So imagine you have an AI assistant which is expected to answer users' questions, giving answers to users' questions only based on a couple of documents that you have fed it. It is important for you to understand what is the quality of that retrieval. So you have an evaluator for that. It is important for you to understand if the response is completely grounded in the sources, or did it fabricate something of its own. You might be familiar with the word hallucination or confabulation, which is the inverse of this. So groundedness is a very critical metric. It is important for you to as a RAG developer to evaluate and see how well the generated response is fully within the context. Now, what's interesting about these evaluators, and I'll show you this in a demo here shortly, it isn't it is on a threshold of 1 to 5, so you can see what the variance or the delta is. So groundedness is between so when I say 1 is not as much groundedness, 5 means it is excellent groundedness. Similarly, relevance and response completeness, sometimes it will give your RAG application might answer the user's question, but the details might not be sufficient enough. It might not have completeness to that response. So you have an evaluator called response completeness, which will measure how complete the response is. Most all of these are on a scale of 1 to 5. So that's the good part about it. Again, these are the ones that are available out of the box for you. If you want to create your own evaluators, you absolutely can. So with that, let me switch to my demo screen here. Give me 1 second, and I'm gonna bring this up. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So this is a very simple console application. My intention is just to show you the libraries and that this actually works. This took me not more than a couple of hours to put together. And interesting part is this is in .NET. You can do the same thing in Python. I know a lot of .NET developers are interested in seeing what's available from .NET. So again, there are so many quick start samples and others available right now. Should also tell you that GitHub hosts the whole Microsoft Extensions AI Evaluations is open source library out there, so go check it out as well. But these are the libraries that I'm talking about. So evaluation quality is what we just talked about right now. They also have a library for safety reporting. As I said, we'll not be able to cover in the interest of time, but just so you know that it is possible to create a beautiful HTML report using these libraries, again, for you to be able to see the results of some of these evaluation runs. So I have a lot of code here. I'm just going to go ahead and run this and see where we are at. And then I will come back and I will explain what it's done. So off the top of the hood, I will tell you the most simplest thing that we have done over here is, let me show you here. We've connected it to an LLM, set up your LLM as is required and need be. But we are connecting, this is a RAG based system. So imagine you have content, you have a couple of questions, you have one question, the user has asked a question and the LLM is making a response. You also have a 5 or so content sources that have been pulled to be able to answer the user's question. So this is the context. The domain is responsible AI. So the user is asking a question about responsible AI, and the LLM is going to give a response. And then I have a couple of evaluators here that will be used to evaluate if some of the quality evaluators that we talked about. So let's see if it does that. I will need to run that. 1 second. Give me a minute. Sometimes it has a problem with my LLM connection string. So let's be a little patient there. Awesome. So let me walk you through this and kind of show you what it is. It might be difficult to read, but trust me, we're there. So the user asked a question right there at the top. If an AI system is accurate and fast, but lacks transparency or fairness, can it truly be considered responsible? Now, the AI's response is, an AI system cannot be considered responsible if it lacks transparency or fairness. Just because it's accurate and fast doesn't mean that it is responsible. And I thought that was a great. And it explains all the responsible AI metrics and so on and so forth. Now, the second half of that page there, this is the output of the evaluator itself. So the metric that we are demoing right now is groundedness. Remember, we talked about this is on a scale of 1 to 5. So the score that it has given for this particular response is 5, and the rating is exceptional. Two of my favorite parts inside this is, one, I love watching the thought process of the evaluator. So reason, that is the consider that your TLDR, it gives you a one-line statement on why it said it was exceptional. So the response is fully correct and complete. It addresses the user's query, precise, demonstrates complete understanding, da, da, da. Now, if you want further diagnostics, that comes from a separate parameter called diagnostic, and it follows step by step on how the model went through its chain of thought process, and it gives you all the detail over there. And again, if you are interested in that, sometimes that explainability of AI is a piece that we crave for and we don't have enough of. So I love the part where it talks about the diagnostics. Now, something that we should consider when we go into production applications as well: cost and latency. Three dimensions across which most production applications, GenAI applications, are measured: quality, cost, and latency, not to compromise. So in terms of the quality of the evaluator alone, not the response, but the evaluator alone, you might ask, oh, this is great, Liji, but how much is it going to cost me? How many tokens does it use? How much time does it take for this evaluation to be completed and come back to me with results? Things like that. So that's where metadata comes into play. So per the official documentation, they would recommend GPT-4o or later. So I used GPT-4o, and you can see the number of input tokens, the number of output tokens, total tokens that was used. You can do the calculation on your cost accordingly, and then you can see the duration that it took to actually do the evaluation. So if that matters to you, especially as you do, you're not going to evaluate one thing at a time. It might be a bulk set that you want to evaluate. This metadata might be helpful for you to be able to plan accordingly. So that's a full end-to-end example of groundedness. I might have some others as well here. Let's give it a try. So that was groundedness. And what else do I want to show? I'm going to try relevance and see if that works. So let's see if this runs. And then I will go back to explaining what relevance is. So, okay. Let us try that again. So relevance is when the AI has answered a user's question, but we don't know if it was particularly relevant to what the user had asked for. I mean, you can give an informationally accurate answer, but if it is not relevant, then it really doesn't, it hasn't made the cut, right? So that is what relevance is about. Let's hope I can run the demo here. And then we will see. Um, okay. All right. So same thing, same users question, same AI response, and the relevance. See, it has scored between 1 to 5. On a scale of 1 to 5, it has given itself a 5, and it says it's an exceptional response. And the reason being the response fully addresses the user's query with accurate information. Now you can test this in so many ways. Trust me, I've tested the false negatives and false positives as well, and there are times when it is absolutely an irrelevant answer, and it does not shy away from telling you that. So you can watch the diagnostics, again the metadata and things like that. So you get the idea. So there's relevance you can test, there's response completeness. What I wanted to actually show you is it is a single piece of code. Like, it isn't too many lines of code. Of course, I have a helper file here, but it's just a few lines of code. You just invoke the evaluator API, and that's it. You pass along the question, the response, the messages, or the ground truth, or the context over there, and that's it. It would come back with that evaluation as you saw here on screen. Same thing goes for response completeness, equivalence evaluation, and NLP evaluators are something that you're probably familiar with: Blur, Roche score, things like that. So coherence evaluation, fluency, lots of things that you can do just for the out of the box libraries there. So let's go back to the slide here. Quick check on time. Okay. So we covered a couple of RAG evaluators. This is particularly interesting if you are building a RAG based application. Now, um, agent evaluators. If you have started building or wanting to build agentic AI applications, this will be also of interest to you. You are aware that agentic AI agents depend on tool calling, and you want to know if the task that has been given to an agent has been completed. You want to know if it is completely adhered to that task. You want to know if the intent of the user was actually supported or not, if it called the correct tool or not. So many areas for you to evaluate, even as an agentic AI builder. So similarly, just like we did for uh, our RAG based tools, it is possible to build or evaluate for agentic AI. Let's see if I can show you one of these. And I have a RAG and an agentic inside one single um code here. So bear with me as I bring this live. Okay. Alrighty. And we are almost there. So what do I want to show you from here? Let me try the intent resolution. Let's see if that will work. So now that runs. Okay. Let me bring that full screen. So this is fairly simple. The user's question was, I live in Montreal. This is a completely different use case. I live in Montreal and I'm looking for a moderate intensity hike. What's the current weather like? So the assistant, the AI agent, calls the tool successfully, and the result that it comes back with, there are periods of rain or drizzle 15. Now, the metric that we were evaluating was intent resolution. On a scale of 1 to 5, it says 5, it is exceptional. Why? Because the assistant correctly identified the user's intent, which was to show the current weather in Montreal. They wanted to take a hike, and it correctly invoked the tool as well to get this information. The tool call was appropriate, and the user's intent was resolved. So you get the idea. So similarly, you can do that for tool call adherence, for tool call accuracy evaluation, and so many things like that. So again, just like we had done for RAG evaluators, not a lot of piece of code, just a couple of lines, and you can just add the library, add the package to your application, and just start invoking the APIs. And whatever you saw here on screen, I wanted to show you is what you get out of the box. Like nothing fancy that I did from my side. It is simply emitting the results from the API. It's everything is coming out of the evaluator itself. So you see now a couple of classes that are available from that library using which we can actually use for evaluators, and we actually did the demo as well. So the next class I wanted to talk about, and this is very connected to the responsible AI part that we were talking about. I will caveat this by saying what I'm showing here, you can do it in Foundry as well. So in Foundry, you have safety evaluation, and you can absolutely use the safety evaluation there. If you're like me and want to dig a little more into code, and particularly the pre-prod phase, right? So you want to be able to run things and see some of the inner line details, the diagnostics, and want to see the tokens and things like that. The Microsoft Evaluations AI library is a good code based approach to do that. So coming back to our safety evaluators, these are all the evaluators that are again available. You can use these safety evaluators both on agents as well as models, which means you can use this in rack-based applications. You can use this for testing in the agentic applications as well. And you see each of these measures, you don't have to create anything from scratch. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are already evaluators out there. You just need to call the API and they will come back and tell you whether you are within a certain threshold or what your confidence for that should be. So hateful harmfulness, self-harm, protected materials, code vulnerability, sensitive data leakage, all of these are available from the safety evaluations library. And okay, so but before I wrap up, I did want to share a couple of other things as well, which we probably did not share in the slide deck, but I think will be of interest to you. Did I stop sharing my screen there? Let me bring it back up. Alrighty. Okay, so two major resources that I wanted to share with you. One is the Learn resource. So this sounds great. That was a lot. Where do I start? So go to Learn and you can just type in Microsoft.Extensions.AI Evaluations Library. I am going to put this in the chat as well. So you will see that this library, it will talk to you in detail about everything that we just went through right now, and even more. Like you have reporting libraries, you have console applications to manage those evaluation data. It will tell you how to actually integrate with your test application. So you can pick your favorite test framework, NUnit or MS Test, and you can use this. I mean, think about it, it's now a part of your Azure DevOps in your CI/CD pipelines. That will give you an ability to run this rigorously and at scale. And then we talked about all the comprehensive evaluation metrics, NLP, safety, quality, cached responses. Oh, this is fantastic, because sometimes, again, all of these evaluations incur cost. There is tokens and there is cost to this. So when it calls the same thing twice, know that there is out of the box response caching that is available, so that it doesn't waste your tokens on that. Reporting, we did not cover, but you should know that it is possible to create these beautiful HTML reports as well out of this out of the box, and things like that. So the Learn is one major resource. The other one, as I said, this is open source. So the GitHub itself is a great resource for you if you want to see quick starts and examples and samples, and this, this continuous improvement in this area in terms of the capabilities of some of these evaluators as well. New evaluators being developed. When I started working, there weren't as many evaluators. Now I see a lot of new evaluators being added, and even for the .NET people, right? Yeah. So that is really, really cool to see. So I will drop both of this in chat, but meanwhile, I can start addressing some of the questions as well. Let me. That is interesting. I will need to listen. All right. I will take Larissa's or others' help to do that, but I think I am almost done with the conversation. Let's look at the chats and let's see what questions we have here. It's wonderful to see so many people join from different parts of the globe. Um, Okay, Pablo asks, how much does this .NET library differ in features from the Azure AI Evaluation client library for Python? I don't think a lot. I don't think it differs a lot. Earlier on, it's been a while since I looked at the Python library. Earlier on, I want to say there was more support for the Python, but now there is sufficient support, as sufficient as much as I need it. You would want to evaluate for your specific use case, on if it is there for the .NET as well. But it's just the evaluation libraries are available for Python developers as well as .NET developers. I am predominantly a .NET developer, so that I appreciate that more. But at the core capability level, there should not be a lot of differences in that. Earlier on, if I recollect, when I started building these, there were more readily available samples, also more for the Python than for .NET. But now I see that there is available for both. Um, yeah, but to answer your question, not in terms of just pure feature or functionality capability, not a lot of difference. There shouldn't be, right? So, all right, what else do we have? Comes back as 2 out of 5. Okay. Yes, SLR personal. I will take that question. If the response groundedness comes back as 2 out of 5, is there a way to dig deeper and see why? Does it store reference links to cross check? Mm. So, partly. Is there a way to dig deeper and see why? So I predominantly rely on the reason. Well, the reason is just a one line. Diagnostics is where I go deeper into. Does it store the reference links to cross check? I'm assuming you are referring to the link to the content source itself. No, I have not seen that. It will store the evaluation results and things like that, like, just to play it out. You can absolutely store all of this in your Azure blob storage if you care to go in and just, I run an evaluation in the morning. Then I want to run one more. I made some adjustments. I want to run it in the afternoon. And then a little bit of that is manual effort. You'll have to see what the delta is in the morning to the end, in every single run. So you can store evaluation data by itself. I have not seen it actually bring back reference links for cross checking. If you mean by reference links, the links to the content source itself. Now, that said, I'm sure there is something that we can do about it, maybe from our side, than just the model, because what it depends on what you're feeding it, right? So I fed it just content, or my context was just plain text alone. Maybe there is more that you can feed it in for it to be able to cross reference. So something for you to explore, I guess. um, all right, what else do we have? All right. While we wait for the questions, I will then give you a little bit more information that we did not cover in the deck itself. So first of all, I'd say, if again, once you start getting the hang of it, I would say go ahead and explore it, right? Explore it and see if this is a fit for you, if it actually makes sense. The cached responses are a huge time saver and a cost saver there. Response caching actually helps making some of these evaluations incremental, so you can run them in your CI pipelines and things like that. So when prompts are unchanged, you don't want it to unnecessarily run it again and again. So it's way faster and a way more cost effective way for testing. Imagine what is the alternative to this. You can always use subject matter experts, but they're not always scalable and sustainable solution. So if you want to have quick runs of your applications, particularly pre-production, this is an easy and a fast and a cost-effective way for you to get some of that diagnostic data upfront. So this will help build you and your team and your leadership the confidence to say that, okay, this is ready for prime time. The other thing I wanted to say is about, we touched upon it, the scalable storage with Azure Blob integration. So it lets you persist evaluation data. It isn't lost in console applications or test data like I showed you here. You can absolutely store the results in Azure. It gives your team a central place to track your evaluation history. You can look outcomes across the environments, across your dev, your QA, your prod environments. There's long term monitoring and workflows that you can create around this. So I was just showing you what is available just out of the box in like 10 minutes. You can absolutely bring this AI evaluations into your DevOps pipeline. So if these libraries are integrated into your CI/CD pipelines, then it starts making a lot more sense to you. You can add steps to your pipelines. You can execute your evals, making AI quality checks as you go. With every run, consider just the way you would do unit tests as well. And then after that in your CI/CD pipelines. The libraries are modular. You don't have to use all those metrics. You can use what you want. If the only thing you care about is groundedness, or the only thing you want to really focus on is retrieval quality, you don't have to use the remaining. You can absolutely pick and choose what metrics you want to use. You can create custom storage providers to store your data. This is completely modular, and it's extensible and customizable for your specific application need. But you have the opportunity now to fit these pieces together. So you have the core building blocks, which is your evaluation package. You have these evaluators available out of the box, and then you can decide how you want to integrate it. You want to run evaluations as part of your CI/CD or others, or your DevOps plugin, and so on and so forth. Completely up to you. But it's already there in an environment that is very familiar for you. So you really know how to integrate this, because it's in Visual Studio and your regular pipelines and stuff. So it's a very simple workflow. You already have your LLM connection set up. You can set up your test project. Next time you can pull in your packages or libraries, put in the code over there, and just start getting it running. You can generate the evaluation, create a test report, and you should be up and running. Again, lots of samples and quick starts that are also available if you want to get started today. Okay. Mm. Pablo has a question. Could we use it to evaluate a multi agent application based on agent framework? I'm assuming you are asking Microsoft Agent Framework, and I mean to evaluate sub agents too, but without separating the agents. I have not tried that. I uh, would encourage you to check it out and share the learnings. I have personally not tried that in terms of Microsoft Agent Framework and just individual agents itself. I cannot imagine why not, because you are evaluating it even at a sub agent at the agent level. But I'll let you try it out and then share the learnings. I personally have not tried that out though. Thank you. Great question though. And is there any more questions? Alrighty. I think that may be about it. Um, all right. Well, um, if you have any further questions, please feel free to leave that in chat and I will respond to that. If not, I appreciate you for joining the show and for giving us your time this morning, and highly encourage you to please check out the Learn and the GitHub resources for Microsoft Extensions Evaluation AI. It's not as popular as it should be, but it's a very important I think pillar to, especially if you're considering moving from POCs and prototypes and demos to production applications. Evaluation is a core pillar of your strategy. So with that, yes, I am going to get into YouTube, and I have not connected to my YouTube account, but I will share the links in chat. Thank you very much for your time. Larissa, back to you.
Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you all for joining, and thanks for your questions. Lizzie, thanks for the presentation today. And at the Reactor, we are always looking to improve your experience. So if you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find the link to the survey on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you in the next one.